No one noticed the first disappearance. In the early years of humanity's expansion into the stars, ships occasionally vanished. Navigation errors, reactor failures, cosmic radiation storms, space was full of dangers, and losing a vessel every few years wasn't considered unusual. But the second disappearance raised eyebrows. The third started rumors. And by the seventh ship, the Interstellar Navigation Authority stopped calling them accidents. The cargo hauler Atlas Pioneer vanished first while traveling a routine supply route between the Tau Ceti colonies. The ship had departed normally. Its navigation beacons were functioning perfectly. Then, halfway through the jump corridor, its signal simply stopped. No distress call. No debris. Just silence. 3 months later, the research vessel Endeavour disappeared in almost the exact same region of space. Then a colonial transport carrying 2,000 settlers vanished without a trace. Within 2 years, 12 ships were gone. The unsettling part wasn't the number of losses. It was the pattern. The missing vessels were all traveling through what astronomers called dark corridors, rare regions of space where dark matter density was unusually low. These corridors were the reason faster-than-light travel worked at all. Ships relied on these cosmic gaps to safely fold space during long-distance jumps. Humanity had mapped hundreds of them over decades of exploration. They thought they had. The discovery began aboard the exploration ship Pathfinder Odyssey, a deep space survey vessel assigned to update the interstellar navigation charts. The crew expected routine work, mapping gravitational fluctuations, monitoring stellar radiation, updating corridor stability. Instead, they found something impossible. Inside the ship's dimly lit analysis chamber, astrophysicist Dr. Marcus Hale stared at the holographic projection floating above the central console. Lines of light traced the routes of known jump corridors between nearby star systems. But something was wrong. "Run the scan again," Hale said quietly. The ship's AI responded immediately. "Recalculating dark matter distribution, scan complete." The hologram shifted. The corridor between two nearby systems, Alpha Menci and Gliese 667, was gone. Not unstable. Not damaged. Gone. Hale frowned. That corridor has been stable for 70 years. Navigation Officer Daniel Reeves leaned closer to the projection. "You're saying the gap closed?" Hale slowly zoomed in on the data. Except it hadn't just closed. The surrounding dark matter had moved. "That's impossible," Reeves said. Hale nodded slowly. Dark matter made up most of the universe's mass, but it behaved in a very specific way. It formed massive halos around galaxies, shaping gravity on enormous scales. But on the scale of star systems? It was supposed to be static. It didn't flow. It didn't shift. And it definitely didn't rearrange itself overnight. Yet the data clearly showed a massive current of dark matter sliding into the corridor like an invisible tide, filling the gap that ships had used for decades. Reeves crossed his arms. "Maybe it's a sensor glitch." Hale didn't answer. Instead, he expanded the map. Dozens of other corridors appeared. Then he overlaid the newest scan results. Silence filled the room. 3 more corridors were shrinking. 2 had already collapsed. Reeves felt a chill run down his spine. "Marcus." Hale finished the sentence for him. "Those are the routes where the missing ships vanished." The Pathfinder Odyssey spent the next 48 hours scanning every nearby sector. The results were worse than anyone expected. Dark matter concentrations weren't random. They were shifting. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, but consistently. Like ocean currents moving through space. Every movement followed a disturbing pattern. The currents were converging on active human travel routes. Corridors that saw frequent ship traffic were shrinking. Rarely used paths remained stable. At first, Hale assumed it was coincidence. Then the ship's AI completed a predictive simulation. The hologram displayed the galaxy's local region with thousands of bright navigation routes stretching between stars. Then the simulation accelerated time forward 10 years. One by one, the corridors disappeared. Reeves stared at the projection in disbelief. "If this continues," Hale finished quietly, "humanity will lose half its interstellar routes." Reeves looked up. But why would dark matter move like that? Hale didn't respond immediately. Instead, he zoomed out further. The map expanded to reveal a much larger region of space, hundreds of star systems connected by fragile pathways of travel. Then Hale activated another overlay. Dark matter density. The glowing patterns appeared like enormous clouds surrounding entire sectors of space. Reeves leaned closer. Wait! The clouds weren't random. They formed long arcs stretching across the map. Massive curved structures. Almost like, Marcus, Reeves whispered. Those look like walls. Hale slowly nodded. And then he activated the final scan. The most recent data from the ship's long-range sensors. The hologram flickered. A massive region of dark matter appeared ahead of human expansion, denser than anything ever recorded. It stretched across thousands of light years. A cosmic barrier. Reeves felt his pulse quicken. Are we heading toward that? Hale nodded again. Human colonies had been spreading outward for nearly a century, and every new exploration mission pushed deeper into the same direction. Toward that wall. Reeves looked back at the disappearing corridors behind them, then at the massive dark structure ahead. A terrible realization slowly formed. What if the corridors aren't collapsing randomly? Hale's voice was barely above a whisper. They're not. Reeves swallowed. Then what's happening? Hale stared at the moving currents of invisible matter flowing through the holographic galaxy. Dark matter wasn't supposed to react to anything. Not gravity changes this small. Not ships. Not human activity. And yet the data said otherwise. The currents were shifting, blocking routes, closing pathways, almost as if something was watching where humanity traveled, and slowly sealing those doors shut. Hale finally spoke. Daniel? Reeves looked at him. What if the universe isn't passive? The room fell silent. Outside the ship's observation window, the stars burned quietly across the infinite dark. But for the first time since humanity reached the stars, it felt like something out there had noticed, and it didn't want them going any further. Dr. Adrian Hale had barely slept since the Pathfinder Odyssey's discovery. The dark matter currents weren't just shifting, they were reacting. Humanity had unknowingly been expanding through cosmic corridors that weren't naturally stable. And now, those corridors were disappearing, closing off entire regions of space like invisible gates shutting behind them. Hale convened the Interstellar Council in a secure communications chamber aboard the orbital station Horizon Reach, orbiting the star Gliese 581. Screens flickered with projections of star systems, jump corridors, and the latest data streams from the Pathfinder Odyssey. Look at this, Hale said, pointing to the holographic map. These corridors, they're gone. The council members murmured among themselves. Star systems that had been accessible for decades were now unreachable. Counselor Lyra Vance leaned forward, her eyes scanning the glowing patterns. Are you suggesting the corridors collapsed naturally? Hale shook his head. No. The dark matter isn't static, it's actively rearranging itself around our expansion routes. Every route we've opened to colonists, every corridor our ships have traveled frequently, it's now closing. A young astrophysicist, Jalen Ortiz, tapped at a nearby console, pulling up the last 5 years of shipping logs. 3 colonies cut off. 24 ships lost. Entire sectors blocked. And it's accelerating. The room went silent. What does that mean for future expansion? Vance asked, her voice barely steady. Hale exhaled slowly. It means we can't count on the galaxy being open to us. Every time we establish a new colony, or chart a new route, we're triggering a response. We're being herded. Counselor Vance blinked. Herded by what? The universe itself, Hale said quietly. Or whatever is shaping it. Hale's team began analyzing centuries of archived astronomical data. They traced corridors humanity had unknowingly relied upon for travel, gaps in dark matter density that made faster-than-light jumps possible. For decades, humans had believed these corridors were natural phenomena, randomly occurring gaps in the cosmic web. But Hale's analysis revealed a chilling truth. The corridors weren't random. They were carefully maintained openings within an otherwise impenetrable network of dark matter. Humanity had been slipping through the cracks. And now, the cracks were closing. The dark matter is reacting to us, Ortiz said, voice tight. Every new colony we build, every route we map, it's condensing, reshaping, blocking us. If this keeps up, he let the thought hang in the air. Hale knew exactly what Ortiz meant. Entire sectors of colonized space could become isolated. Communication and supply lines could fail. Humanity could be trapped within a shrinking network of accessible worlds. Within 5 years, 3 colonies would be unreachable. 20 more ships could vanish. And the corridors beyond the mapped regions? Completely blocked. It was worse than anyone had imagined. The Pathfinder Odyssey was sent on a follow-up mission to study the largest affected sectors. As the crew approached the densest dark matter formations, the sensors recorded strange gravitational anomalies. The corridors appeared to ripple like water, almost aware of the ships navigating them. Dr. Hale and his team ran simulations. The corridors that had vanished weren't closing randomly, they were responding to human presence. Every jump, every fleet movement, every colony establishment caused the corridors to shift slightly, nudging humanity back toward familiar regions. It's like we're being guided, Hale muttered, his eyes never leaving the holographic projection. Not toward anything we want, but away from something. The Council was skeptical. Ancient civilizations had speculated about strange forces in space before, but dark matter didn't think. It didn't care. That was the scientific consensus. Until now. Colonial Governor Elias Monroe, attending via secure link, slammed his hand on the console. This is absurd. You're saying the galaxy itself is conspiring against us. Hale didn't flinch. I'm saying exactly that. And if we ignore it, we'll lose entire colonies. Ships will continue disappearing. We'll be trapped in a shrinking corridor, and every expansion we attempt will only accelerate it. The room went quiet again. The weight of Hale's words sank in. Humanity had assumed the universe was passive, an empty canvas on which to paint its destiny. Instead, it was clear that the universe was reactive, almost sentient in its precision, and determined to push humanity back. Hale continued, voice grim. The corridors are like gates. And we're the intruders they weren't meant to let through. Vance shook her head, disbelief etched on her face. So what do we do? Hale didn't answer immediately. He stared at the hologram, tracing the collapsing corridors with a trembling finger. First, he said finally, we stop assuming space is ours to take. And second, we find out who or what built these gates. Because if we don't, we'll be shut out entirely. The Pathfinder Odyssey returned to Horizon Reach with more data, each reading more terrifying than the last. Entire systems once considered safe were now isolated. Dark matter currents moved like invisible walls, closing off sectors humanity had barely begun to explore. And the chilling part was undeniable. The more humans tried to expand, the more the corridors shifted. It was as if the universe itself were watching, and every act of exploration triggered a response. Hale sat alone late at night, staring at the projection of the galaxy. Outside the window, distant stars twinkled in the void, indifferent, or so they seemed. But deep in the dark currents surrounding those stars, something was moving. And it wasn't natural. It was waiting. The Pathfinder Odyssey's data had revealed something far more terrifying than shifting corridors or disappearing ships. It was subtle at first, hidden in the gravitational readings of deep space probes, but once Dr. Adrian Hale's team examined it in detail, the truth became impossible to ignore. Dark matter wasn't just moving. It was structured. Hale traced the densest regions of the dark matter currents and overlaid centuries of stellar cartography. Patterns emerged, mathematical symmetry, perfect arcs stretching across entire star systems. The distribution wasn't chaotic, as astrophysicists had always assumed. It was deliberate, calculated, designed. It looks like, muttered Jalen Ortiz, leaning over a hollow display. It looks like a wall. Not just a wall, Hale corrected, voice low. A barrier. A containment field, larger than anything we've ever encountered. The Council, still struggling to comprehend the disappearance of ships and colonies, now faced a reality that challenged the very foundation of human understanding of the universe. Humanity hadn't stumbled into danger, it had been herded toward something immense, ancient, and immovable. A probe was dispatched directly into the largest section of the boundary. It was a small, unarmed vessel, designed for sensors, not survival. Its instruments recorded geometries in the dark matter, impossible to explain with known physics. Curves, spirals, and concentric layers reflected a level of precision that no natural process could produce. When the probe transmitted its first high-resolution scans back to the Odyssey, the room fell silent. Dr. Hale leaned closer to the projections. See the lattice formations? That's not random. That's architecture. Ortiz's face went pale. You're saying someone built this? Hale nodded. Not someone like us. Not anything we've ever imagined. This is ancient. Millions, maybe billions of years old. And it's designed to contain. The probe transmitted its final readings before succumbing to the gravitational stresses. Among the raw data were faint, repeating signals embedded in the dark matter lattice, signals structured like a language, but not in any human code. Pulses of energy that repeated in patterns beyond comprehension. A warning? Or instructions? Hale stared at the holograms, his mind racing. Whatever built this, it didn't expect us to be here. Or if it didn't want us expanding beyond these boundaries. Ortiz swallowed hard. So, the disappearing corridors, the vanished ships, it's all part of the containment system? Exactly, Hale said grimly. We aren't being attacked. We're being managed, herded into the safe zones. And every time we push outward, the system responds. The Council struggled with the implication. For centuries, humanity had believed the galaxy was a frontier, a blank canvas. Now, they realized that the frontier was already occupied, not by life, but by a mechanism designed to control the movement of civilizations. Governor Elias Monroe's voice broke the silence. Control? You mean some ancient race built this? Hale shook his head. I don't know if it's a race, a machine, or something else entirely. But it's intelligent and it's reactive. Everything we've done to expand triggers a response. Ortiz pointed to another section of the hologram, where the dark matter formed a massive circular structure encompassing an entire cluster of star systems. It's huge, bigger than any galaxy. And our expansion path leads straight into it. Hale's jaw tightened. And the more colonies we establish, the more it reacts. Eventually, it could seal off entire sectors. Or worse. He didn't finish the sentence. The Pathfinder Odyssey spent days mapping the boundary, each new data stream revealing greater precision, larger structures, and subtle anomalies, regions where space itself was distorted, warped by the dense dark matter architecture. Then the probe detected something unexpected, a faint energy pattern within the wall. Not just passive matter, but an active signal, pulsing in a repeating rhythm. When Hale decoded the pattern, he realized it wasn't a message for humans. It was a warning system, triggered whenever mass crossed a certain threshold. The containment field isn't just passive, Hale said. It's designed to activate. Ortiz swallowed, voice trembling. Activate, for what? Hale's gaze fixed on the hologram. The intricate layers of dark matter seemed to ripple as if responding to thought. He could almost see the corridors behind them, narrowing, shrinking, retreating. Humanity's presence was already altering the structure. Something ancient is watching us, he said softly, and it doesn't want us going any further. A cold silence filled the council chamber. Outside the station, stars glimmered in the void, oblivious, or so it seemed. But within the dark matter walls beyond, something immense and patient stirred. Humanity had not stumbled onto danger by accident. They had triggered an ancient system, one built not to nurture life, but to contain it. And the more they expanded, the closer they came to fully activating it. For the first time, Hale understood the terrible truth. The galaxy was not open. It was a prison. And humanity was walking straight into the walls of an invisible cell. The question that haunted him most was simple. What had been locked inside this cosmic cage? And more importantly, What would happen if humanity broke the lock? The stars outside the station continued to shine, indifferent to human ambition. But in the shadows beyond, something ancient waited, silent, patient, and calculating. And it had already noticed them. 4 months after the Pathfinder Odyssey's discoveries, humanity continued its expansion cautiously. Colonies were fortified, navigation algorithms adjusted, and ships rerouted to avoid the densest dark matter currents. But caution didn't stop the universe itself from reacting. It started subtly. Gravity readings near known corridors began fluctuating. Jump drives malfunctioned, sometimes mid-transit, throwing ships off course by light years. Stars flickered with unexplainable intensity, their emissions bending in patterns that didn't match any known astrophysics. Dr. Adrian Hale watched the readings from the Horizon Reach orbital station, his hands hovering over the console. "The corridors aren't just closing anymore," he muttered. "They're actively resisting our presence." Jalen Ortiz, pale and exhausted, leaned closer. "Resisting? That implies intelligence." Hale didn't answer immediately. He traced the latest sensor streams, overlaying centuries of data with new measurements from deep space probes. The results were horrifying. Dark matter currents weren't just static walls or reactive gates, they were evolving. Entire regions of space twisted into invisible spirals, corridors collapsing, reforming, shrinking. And every time a colony established a new jump route, the reaction accelerated. Governor Elias Monroe's transmission cut through the tense silence aboard the station. "Dr. Hale, we've got reports from 3 colonies. Communications are failing. Sensor arrays are going haywire. Ships can't jump out." Hale's stomach tightened. "It's the containment system. The dark matter currents are activating." Ortiz's voice trembled. "Activating? You mean like a trap?" "Yes," Hale said grimly. "And every human effort to expand is accelerating the process." The first signs were localized: disrupted communications, minor gravitational anomalies, jump drives failing. But then the anomalies grew larger. Entire star clusters began behaving unpredictably. Massive gravitational waves rippled through sectors previously considered safe, bending light, twisting trajectories, and creating turbulence impossible to navigate. Colonial outposts reported phenomena that defied understanding: stars blinking in and out of existence for seconds, objects disappearing mid-flight, and shadows in the void moving against gravitational logic. Hale convened a council emergency session. On the holo display, the map of the galaxy shimmered, showing the densest concentrations of dark matter forming new structures overnight. The containment field was no longer passive, it was awake. "Do you realize what this means?" Ortiz whispered. "We're inside a system that's actively responding to us. It's not passive anymore. It's alive." Hale nodded. "Alive enough to prevent us from reaching beyond it. And if it fully activates, the consequences could be catastrophic. Entire sectors could be sealed off permanently or erased entirely." Counselor Lyra Vance stared at the projection, pale. "Erased? You mean destroyed?" Hale swallowed. "We don't know what it's capable of. But if the currents collapse inward, if the field closes completely, it could eliminate anything inside its boundaries: stars, planets, even colonies." Ortiz's hands shook as he manipulated the simulation. The holographic galaxy warped, showing entire corridors closing like a fist, channels of space shrinking, folding in on themselves. Humanity's expansion appeared in real time as an intrusion against the dark matter lattice. Monroe's voice, strained and angry, cut through the room. "We didn't create this. We're explorers. We're colonists. You're saying the universe is punishing us?" "Yes," Hale said quietly. "And we triggered it. Every jump, every new colony, every fleet movement. The system is reacting. And now, it's accelerating beyond anything we've seen before." The first ship lost in this phase was a cargo hauler traveling between the Alpha Menci and Gliese 667 systems. Its navigation systems failed mid-jump, sensors scrambled, and communications went silent. Seconds later, Orbital telescopes detected the ship's signature being stretched and twisted across a gravity anomaly before vanishing completely. Colonial fleets reported similar incidents. Light years of space were warping unpredictably, routes that had been safe for centuries became impassable overnight. On Horizon Reach, Hale and Ortiz watched the projections in horrified silence. The dark matter currents had begun forming spike-like structures, bristling outward like a predator sensing movement. Entire sectors of the galaxy were being reshaped in response to humanity's expansion. Hale whispered almost to himself, "It's responding to us. Not just closing corridors, it's learning our patterns." Ortiz turned pale. "Learning? You mean it could predict our next moves?" "Yes," Hale said grimly, "and adjust accordingly." The Council realized the terrifying truth. The containment system wasn't simply blocking human expansion. It was actively preparing, a cosmic predator waiting for the next misstep. The universe itself had become an adversary, one that operated on scales and with precision far beyond human comprehension. And humanity's expansion, once a symbol of progress, had become a trigger. The dark matter currents pulsed in response to every fleet movement, every colony founded, every jump executed. Stars flickered, gravity twisted, corridors vanished. Humanity was no longer the master of its destiny. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the universe was awakening. And it had noticed humanity. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had not. Despite the warnings, colonies continued to push outward. But the universe's response had grown undeniable, unstoppable. Dark matter currents had become rivers of invisible force, reshaping space itself, twisting entire star systems, collapsing corridors, and severing communications with isolated colonies. Dr. Adrian Hale stared at the holographic map aboard Horizon Reach. Every corridor humanity had used to expand now shimmered with uncertainty. Vast regions of space had become untraversable. Even fleets of ships that had once traveled with precision now returned late, or not at all. Hale's voice was hoarse as he addressed the Council. "It's not just corridors collapsing anymore. The containment field, the dark matter network, is activating fully. It's learning, adapting, anticipating. Every jump, every colony, it's reacting. And we're not ready." Jalen Ortiz pointed at the display. "Look at this pattern. The densest regions of dark matter form a boundary around the entire galaxy. It's enormous. Bigger than anything we've ever mapped. We're inside a cage." A chilling silence followed. Governor Elias Monroe broke it. "A cage? You're saying we've been trapped this whole time?" "Yes," Hale said quietly. "And now we know why." The final clue came from a probe sent deep into the densest sector of the dark matter boundary. It had survived longer than previous attempts, transmitting data that would change humanity's understanding of the universe forever. Embedded within the lattice were structured energy pulses. Not random. Not natural. A warning. Encoded in a language older than human comprehension. Hale decoded what he could. The translation was fragmentary, but the meaning was unmistakable. Containment integrity failing. Civilization approaching escape threshold. It wasn't a threat directed at humanity. It wasn't a communication. It was a notice. A warning system. Humanity was inside a prison. Not a prison built of walls or weapons, but of the very fabric of the universe itself. And the architects of that prison were gone. Or hidden. Or dead. Hale's voice shook as he explained to Ortiz and the Council. "We've been expanding in a galaxy designed to contain something. Something so dangerous that whoever, or whatever, built this didn't trust it to be free. And now, by our expansion, we're approaching the threshold." Ortiz swallowed, eyes wide. "You mean, whatever's locked inside, it could escape? Or we could trigger something?" Hale nodded grimly. "We don't know what happens if containment fails. Stars could collapse. Systems could vanish. And whatever is outside, or inside, could be unleashed." Governor Monroe slammed his fist on the console. "So we're being punished for curiosity? For survival?" Hale shook his head. "Not punished. contained. And that containment is failing because of us. For the first time, humanity's ambitions felt small, fragile, like a candle against the dark. For centuries, humans had believed the galaxy was theirs to explore, to colonize, to claim. Now, the truth was clear. The galaxy had its own rules. And it had been keeping something in check, long before humans ever looked to the stars. Ortiz pointed at the final probe signal. The system, it's still reacting. Every colony we've established, every jump we've made, it's adjusting, learning, preparing. Hale's gaze hardened. Whatever built this didn't expect humans. Or maybe it did. Either way, it's not going to let us leave, or let whatever is contained leave, without a fight. The council debated in urgent whispers. Should humanity halt expansion? Retreat? Attempt to destroy the field? Every suggestion seemed futile. The containment network wasn't a weapon. It was the universe itself, designed to enforce rules beyond comprehension. Outside the station, the stars shone normally. From a distance, space appeared peaceful, infinite, waiting. But inside the dark matter lattice surrounding the galaxy, something immense and patient stirred. The warning pulses had ceased for a brief moment, but only because humanity had paused. Ships in deep space drifted, colonies waited, and sensors tracked the slowly shifting currents of dark matter. Then Hale realized the terrifying truth. The universe wasn't just reactive. It was anticipatory. Every human move, every new colony, every jump, every calculation, it had already accounted for them. The cage was not just holding humanity. It was holding something else in. Something so ancient, so dangerous, that its release had been deemed catastrophic long ago. Hale's voice dropped to a whisper. We don't know who built this, or what they were containing. But we've already triggered the next phase. The dark matter network is awake, and it knows we're here. And now... He paused, staring at the hologram as the massive dark wall shimmered like an invisible tide. Now, it's only a matter of time before we find out what happens if the lock breaks. A cold silence fell over Horizon Reach. Outside, stars burned calmly in the void, oblivious to the terror waiting beyond the edges of human knowledge. And deep in the lattice of dark matter surrounding the galaxy, the ancient prison stirred. Humanity had awakened something older than the stars themselves. And whatever it was watching.